good. Let's go to Ben in Tallahassee. Ben, how are you?
Great, Basil. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You'd like to look at?
Yeah, one, maybe two stocks if you have time, and these are a couple of your old recommendations. One is NAT, and every time I see the Dow drop 500 points, this is one of the very, very few stocks that actually either holds well or actually has been creeping up.
Except for the one that we've got in the utility sector. I just wanted to say, because I'm trying to put the relationship, we have a stock in the utility sector that even today, yesterday was it was up 1-point-something% when the general market was down 1.8 to 2.5 in the different sectors. And today we've got one in that same one is up 0.39 and the general market's down over 1.25%. So you've identified the sectors that the two of them are, how can I put this, are related to the market. One is a belated, it's not lated, it's belated, because in the shipping area, Nordic American tanker, this is where you've got folks who are looking at the potential for shipping. When that potential finally gets realized, I don't know how many times we've seen this over the years, you start to see it when the general market is beginning to top. And one of the reasons is it's because by the time they have the confidence to put in the orders, we're talking about shipping. This is a very expensive thing to be wrong. So what happens is they really wait until there's a backload, and then they can fill the ships. So this is dry shipping. And then what happens is they're on their way out in the ocean when the general market usually has either consolidation or something happens. Why? Because they've had to put the orders in, just like in real estate. The real estate market doesn't top exactly with the general market. Usually what happens is...
So your point is that this could fizzle out here over the next several months after if there's a slowdown, they're going to see that come after the fact.
Yes, it comes after the fact. And two things happen. One is, unlike the utilities, which have also rallied during market relapses, and that's because in the utilities, you're looking at dividend, you're looking at the safety of something like a utility in electric or water or whatever it is. Ours happens to be electric, so it's doing very nicely. And it's a little bit, it's not independent of the market. What it's really acting as is a I don't know what you call it, as a balance to a down market where there has to be always something that goes up. In this particular case, the shippers are a little bit independent because they are looking at the economy like the Fed. In fact, the Nordic American tanker could very well be looked at as if the Fed, this is the Fed right here. We shouldn't call them NAT, it should be called FED, because the Fed looks at the data, the backward data, and they act and react on that. And this is exactly what happens here. Now, the big thing is that there was a high in November, it was on the 8th, and the high was at 347, and it screamed all the way from the 2s into the high 3s. And so now it's pulled back, and I have an alternate count now for the weekly. It's E/B. Why do I change it from a B to an E? Because the way the daily is acting right here is as if it's awakening. It's almost like, I bet the Fed in the last 3 days, the Fed's saying to themselves, hey, wait a minute, this rate increase in December, is that going to be okay? Is that kosher? Is that what we should do? So I think that this is the same thing. So now I'm going to ask you, what was your question?
Yeah, I'm just looking at, I'm watching stocks that are holding up seemingly during these big downtrends and potentially looking to start entering. The other one I was looking at is probably much more of a speculative play, is the CRON. It seems to be forming somewhat of a base at high 7s. So I was actually thinking about adding a little bit to each one.
Okay, here we go. So let me just tell folks, Cronus Group is in the cannabis area. It was a high flyer. It went from pretty much zero once upon a time. What was the low of this thing? I think it was like pennies. Yeah, it was 17 cents back in July of 2016. Had a little bit of a run. It ran to, let's see, so it goes from 17 cents to $15.30. I would say that that is a pretty big, and that was a leg D in the weekly, then a peak D in the daily and the weekly. So the weekly and the monthly, and now it's pulled back and it's trying to form some kind of base. Now, oh, there's the break. That was quick. So you know what? I'm going to do a couple of things during the break. I want to look at Cronus. I want to look at it a little bit more carefully. I want to look at a couple of the other stocks in the same area, and then we can come back and I think you've got your eye on something that might be oversold enough to have a pretty decent rally. So I'll be back with
those two, NAT and CRON.
Okay, we'll be right back. Hi, folks, we're back. So I looked at a number of the cannabis-related stocks, medical, whether it's medical or non-recreational. I think that you've chosen one with a slightly better chart formation, at least than the ones that I looked at. So I'm going to do this. It's trading at 867, up 0.43 cents. The low that was made at 6.50 on the 30th has seen higher lows, but not higher highs. And in fact, there's a little bit of a wedge formation. But I like the way the technicals has formed. So in terms of risk reward, in terms of being outside the general stock market panoply of stocks that most people look at, in terms of sectors, this is the one sector I think that I'm seeing signs of at least an attempt. But this is the one that's held its left side low. Others have gone below it. CGC has gone lower. So this is the one that looks best. I don't know if you've looked at it that way, but I'm looking at this and I'm saying at 865, do you have a position at all now?
I don't. What I look at is I look at the touch points on these big down moves in the market, and it seems like I think I counted 4 or 5 touches on the daily over the last 6 months around 7.5, 760
yes,
somewhere there, and it seemed to hold there every time.
This is its cushion. This is its. Not always is it a trampoline bounce area, but it's a cushion. Absolutely, good eye. So I'm going to say to you, at 864 right now, I think this is a risk reward wise. I would start the position. This is a tough one because I would actually like to start the position and see if it breaks down below 752, but that's a 12% risk. So it would either have to be a small position, give it a 12% risk until it gets to, if it can get to 9.03, touch the 9s, I would immediately raise that stop to a much tighter stop. I might even split it into 2 positions and have one with a stop, maybe a 20-cent stop from your entry point, and the other with a trading stop. Maybe treat it that way because it could form a U formation, and that U formation says, "Ooh, if it can close at any point in the next, not even a week, by Monday, if it can close any day, if it can hit it, it's great. But if it can close above 923 or 927, and this thing does move quickly, when it does move, it's really quite quick." It does. I think that would be a very nice way.
I think it's a great trading stock. I guess the only reason I would hold off, Basil, is if you continue to think that the 23,000s might get tested at some point, that maybe gives me another opportunity to add it, the 750 again. But
I think there's a really good chance that we're going to go at least to the 23,000s one more time, because that's going to be the big test for the market. Do we go below that, or do we actually treat that as a cushion, that previous Dow 23,300? Now, I had an email from Al, and he said, great, I bought the low on Amazon, right at the low today, and it's moving up. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, there are a lot of people that are going to be looking at what happens today especially in this quietish week, theoretically because of low volume, but it isn't a quiet weekend price movement. But I think a lot of people are going to look at the Amazons and the Googles, let me get Alphabet, and they're going to say, hey, look, Google's held its left side low, Amazon took out its left side low. I think a lot of fund managers are going to say, you know, we've been waiting for a re-entry here, and they're going to start, and this could give a little bit more of a bounce. But the way the patterns are looking, I think that even Amazon and Google will be testing these lows at some point over the next 3 to 6 weeks. But in terms of Kronos, just in terms of risk reward right now, I think this is a good opportunity because out of the last 6 sessions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, yeah, the last 6 sessions, it's had only one red candle yesterday. So it's trying to say, attempting to form a base. And I think risk reward, well, I'm not saying, hey, this is great because it's going back to 13 or 14. I'm saying this looks great because if it can start a rally from here, it might form some independence from the stocks that I just spoke about that are really quite vulnerable to further selling, even though they could have a decent bounce. This one looks like it's attempting to make some kind of the stochastic in the weekly chart is improving. It's not great, but it's improving. The MACD will need work, but that only comes about if the price moves. Yep, I like it. And you said NAT. You know, NAT is a different kettle of fish because it hasn't formed the same kind of formation as Kronos. This deep pullback from the 350 area to 280 and now it's at 292. It's a little too risky. I would much rather see it rally a little bit more. I'd rather be buying some strength here than weakness. So I'm just going to say I'll hold off on Nordic American tanker shipping unless you wanted to take a chance on a trade. Then just nibble at this and treat it as an experiment to see how well it can hold here. And if it starts to hold, then you can start adding. But I would not. I wouldn't get carried away.
Awesome. Basil, thank you very much, as always.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your call. Ben in Tallahassee, looking at NAT and CRON.